Pela'ang mafrapo, and welcome to the Eana Mokri podcast. You may have noticed I said oe because there's only 3 of us today. Today we have Eana, myself, and Willem.
Kalt-e.
I always introduce myself as myself, and I never say who I actually am.
Well, everybody knows that you're Pamarik, right?
Yeah, I know.
No, nobody knows this. With that out of the way, today's topics are going to include issue number 3 of The Next Shadow. As of recording this, issue 4 is actually already out, but due to a variety of shipping issues, not everyone on the cast today was able to read issue 4, and it's still pretty new, so we're going to focus the conversation on issue 3. We also have a new vocabulary dump at the end of March from Gariupal. We got a whole lot of new vocabulary, and we're going to be talking about that as well. And at the end, we're going to have some Na'vi conversation practice.
I'm so rusty.
I'm already afraid about it.
Don't worry about it. We're all gonna do our best. We're all learning. So starting the conversation with issue number 3 of The Next Shadow, the TLDR is Jake has been poisoned, and there's a whole lot of complicated politics surrounding who's going to lead the Na'vi now, and who is going to save him since he is not quite dead, or at least presumed to not be dead. Mm-hmm. The issue closes with Eana Mokri sort of connecting with him and sending Jake into a fiery vision of the destruction of Home Tree. So excitement abound leading into the next issue, which we will not discuss on this episode. So, any thoughts and takeaways?
The last panel was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It is pretty cool. Absolutely agreed. So something I found that was kind of interesting, and for me anyway, is I feel like they've been doing a better job of differentiating the different characters. Call me Na'vi blind, but like there's a lot of times, especially in Tsu'tey's Path, where I had a hard time telling one character from another. Mm-hmm. But even without Jake specifically calling out Tsu'tey at the bottom left corner of that panel, like I looked at them like that's Tsu'tey. Like I recognize that character. Spoilers for the next issue, sort of. This trend continues. I recognize several other characters that they like mention or show, which has not always been the case.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm in general really bad at recognizing people, so I mean, yes, I think it improved. Also, I still very happy that they actually put the text bubble tsu'tey in there, so that I definitely recognize it. And one thing that I'm actually very curious about, because you're talking about spoilers for the next episode, which you also haven't read yet, is that I don't know how they're going to resolve all of these like things, because it seems like if you wouldn't have told me that this was like a 4-episode series, I would have thought like, well, they can go for like 10 episodes or something, and they can go to that cave. They can do so many things with this story, but they're apparently going to resolve it in 1 episode.
There's a lot going on, like, and the issues only. I feel like with every keep calling them episodes. They're issues of a comic. This isn't like a show or anything. With each issue, they have been sort of just layering in new wrinkles and conflicts. Yeah. And yeah, I was feeling the exact same way when I first read this one. Is like, there's only 1 issue left. Like, I figured like there's gonna be like a bonus 5th one, right? Because like, how are they gonna resolve all of these conflicts in the span of a single issue?
Yep.
So something I thought the narrative's been doing this for the last 2 issues, but I feel like they really sort of brought it home in this one, is showing sort of the inverse of what a lot of people got out of the first film, which was humans bad, Na'vi good. Mm-hmm. And in most of The Next Shadow, we've sort of started to see like, okay, here are the struggles that the humans are legitimately facing, and you can empathize with them from their perspective, and here are some Na'vi doing some terrible things. Yeah. Whether or not they have good intentions, you know, the road to hell is paved with those. Like, James Cameron stated with the sequels that he wants to show that like there's more depth, like there's good Na'vi, there's bad Na'vi, there's good humans, there's bad humans. And I feel like with everything that we've seen from beyond the canon that we've seen in the films. It's showing that is a direction that they're really exploring with the world. And I think that's really good and helpful.
I agree, absolutely. I just felt with a comic, especially with issue number 3 right now, that they are that aspect of the Na'vi being able to be bad, that just trying to push it just a little too hard, in my opinion. It's a good story and everything, and like you said, it could definitely use 1 or 2 more issues to resolve the whole story arc they are building right now. But I feel like I'm not 100% happy with the story and how the 2 characters of the parents of Aardvark, it was Kefjak, are displayed. It's just it's good character writing, but displayed a little bit too simple in my mind, like a little too convenient. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
I sort of understand where you're coming from, where they seem a little heavy-handed about it. They do have a very limited amount of space to explore this. I mean, these issues are relatively short, and there's only 4 of them. But I feel like Artsu's motivations, she takes them a little bit far, but I feel like they're entirely founded and they're not uncharacteristic of what I feel the Na'vi would be feeling post the war that happened at the end of the first film. Like, we saw everything sort of resolve neatly from Jake's perspective. Like, that's the only perspective that we saw post-war. And in fact, we didn't even really see much of how the other clans were feeling other than, like, Amakdoko, and that they were participating in the battle scenes, but there was no interaction with them. We didn't get to see how they actually feel about things. And in fact, the last time we got the general sentiment of the Na'vi clans, the Amatikaya, the ones that we know the best, they were in mourning. Like, that was the last we saw of the Na'vi's sentiments re-humans.
Yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I was very interested in this comic in the first place, because the film doesn't really give you anything regarding post-war, as you're saying. And this was, of course, like a new storyline after the war, which I found like a very interesting perspective, like an interesting thing to do between movies. Because originally I thought that would be like the thing that Avatar 2 was going to explore before we got like the snippets of story they've given us so far.
Yeah, so if the high ground is to exist, and I believe it does exist, and it will come into being January of next year, that was it was described as the original Avatar sequel scriptment adapted to a graphic novel after more or less scrapped in favor of like what 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be. And that does deal closer in timeline to post-war, and I feel like that was intended to be the exploration point of the post-war Na'vi. So any material that happens canonically after the first film, I feel like that's something that they always wanted to explore. And because this comic is set where it is, that has to be explored in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also can't help but feel just like moving forward, they've set up Artsu to be, and their family, that whole situation, to be significant characters. So I also wouldn't be surprised if we see more of them like moving forward, or at least that they are mentioned. Though it's also entirely possible that they were just used for purposes of this story. I remember in the live stream they mentioned that Hale was actually like they were just a character from the mobile game that most people don't have yet. And they were just elevated to have a role in this story. I don't know if we're going to see Hale in this Avatar 2 or the sequels, but they might show up in these sort of side stories.
So this brief question. So this Pandora Rising game, now we're talking about it, where is it available?
Yeah.
Is it available in the USA?
It is not available in the US.
So why is there a massive advertisement for Pandora Rising on the backside of the cover of the cover?
Well, it's not an advertisement to play, it's an advertisement to learn more.
Okay, maybe this is
and
just
you
like
can learn that the more that there is to learn is that it's not available in your country, probably.
There's literally a get it on Google Play icon on it. Like, I don't know, maybe that's a Dutch version of the comic, because
No.
available here.
It's on the American one as well. Like, and they've had that advertisement on the back of The Next Shadow for at least the last two, because I know it's also on the back of issue 4. Also spoilers.
Oh, spoiler!
The advertisement on the back.
Nice.
Yeah, that just ruins the plot, really. But on a more serious note, the beta rollout of that game has been absurdly slow, and it's almost entirely because I feel because there was a timetable relative to the sequels that it was supposed to be released, and we were supposed to have hit that already.
Right. So they might have more versions that they just are storing right now because they want to have it later to hype Avatar 2 when it comes out.
Pretty much. So there was some other bit of Avatar news earlier this week where it was Cameron mentioned in an interview that it likely won't be until summer of next year until we see a trailer or any footage of Avatar 2. And it sounds like because of that, they're going to do much like what they did with the first Avatar and sort of just like a media blitz strategy where it's just like suddenly everywhere there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I don't think, like, at least I didn't expect otherwise.
Right. So I'm pretty sure Pandora Rising is supposed to be like part of that.
Right. I guess that's it then.
Any other thoughts on the comic?
Maybe just the usual stuff about the visuals. I mean, you talked earlier about the faces being more easily recognizable, or the characters.
The characters differentiate a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the artists who were at work here clearly put more emphasis on facial features that like make the characters distinguishable. For example, Artsud has very strong cheekbones. So it's in some panels, I feel like it's almost over-exaggerated, just a tiny bit. But it helps. It helps, like, telling her apart from the other Na'vi a lot.
There's certain frames where you could make a pretty easy argument that the anatomy is off here, or this doesn't look realistic. But, like, one, it's a comic, and two, like, there's a time and place in visual medium, especially since this isn't trying to be like hyper realistic, to exaggerate certain parts of the body for purposes of selling an emotion, because you're dealing with a still frame that conveys an interaction, something that is moving.
Absolutely. Wow.
There's a really good book for everybody to read, especially anyone who's into comics or comic art, called Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. It's a really great deep dive into, like, here's some interesting, like, problems and solutions that comics and comic artists have. And that book really opened up my perspective to, like, yeah, what an interesting problem to solve is, like, most individual pieces of art are trying to be like, okay, this is like a photo, this is like a snapshot in time. But when you have a comic, like, there's a lot going on between the panels, and there's implied motion or actions happening that are being captured in a still medium. Something else that helps sell the differentiation of characters, and this is especially true for the characters that they've been, the newer ones that they've introduced, not the ones like tsu'tey where they had to, like, reference a character that already existed. But they've been doing a really good job of having unique pieces of clothing or like adornments on them that make it also very easy to tell one apart from another.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed that too.
Yeah, like Artsut has her weird torn sash situation.
I guess it's the same as like what you would usually do for like normal humans in comics, right? I mean, you give them different clothing, like the favorite clothing that we wear all the time. But with Na'vi, they need to be creative, so they do like whatever they can do to differentiate.
Well, yeah, especially with the Amanikaya, who are like in the canon, like much faster and looser with the whole clothing thing.
I mean, that that thing you can making characters distinguishable by their outfit and adornments and stuff is like a very common thing in manga, actually, because most manga pages are in black and white.
Yep.
So you have to depend on those visual cues to help the reader, like telling the people apart you are depicting. Like, okay, that's this guy. He has lighter hair and he always wears that jacket and something like that. So it's a typical
I have to say,
go-to for comic.
Like that really helps you when I'm watching an anime, as opposed to watching like a real life action series. Is the hair colors? They are so helpful. It's just like this is the guy with the green hair. I don't know.
Yes.
But not to sound, I don't know, snarky or something, but in manga especially or anime, depending on the artist, the faces almost always look the same, sort of. Like the eye shape might differ just a tiny bit and stuff, and color might help too, but in general the faces are very, like, I don't know, just one type of face.
Similar.
So you have to rely on
Yes.
that, and that's why I really appreciated the artists in the comic, not only depending on that, but also like working with the facial structures and stuff, like adding that to the whole potpourri of helping to say, okay, that is Artsud and this is Artwork, and they look like that because they have higher cheekbones or something like that. So it adds a nice thing, in my opinion.
And then there's Kaani, who is a elevated background character. Who just keeps showing up.
Here to help. Yeah.
All right. And moving on, the other big topic was we got some new vocabulary. It's been a while since we got some, and Paul saved all the good ones for this post, obviously. So there's new vocabulary dump, and to preface it, Paul talks about like here's his thought processes regarding like when is it appropriate for a new word, sort of how he goes about creating words, which was always an interesting insight. Anyone have any thoughts about the new words that we got?
There's a lot of
definitely. There's a lot of new words, but only one new root, right? And I mean,
Yes.
I know that you're like the etymology person.
Yeah.
So you probably like that. I don't know.
Yes.
I
do like that. You're right. I do like this.
Wow, I can read your mind. But I actually do like new roots sometimes, and I feel like there's many words here that were like derived. So, for example, tsukanom for available from tsuk plus kanom, which means to obtain.
Yeah.
So it's literally obtainable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to know that, like, confirm that it's in use. But it is a word that we basically already could make.
Yes. I would say that was one of the weaker words in this. If I had to tier them, as I do, and I do.
Did you make a tier list again?
Yeah.
Yes. Whether or not I actually construct a tier list, I always like mentally tier them.
Maybe I need to add that to my dictionary so that whenever you search for words, you get like Palm's tier impression.
Yeah. Yeah, look for it in future comics. Or not comics. Look for it in the future comments section. I'm sure KP would love to see a word tier list in his comments.
Well, sorry, this one is useless. We don't need it.
All right. So anyway, regarding new roots and etymology, so my thoughts are as follows. When we get new words that are rearranging roots that we already have, we get a more complete picture of how these roots relate to each other, and sort of the leNa'vi process of making new words. Like what roots they reach for to express ideas is really interesting to me.
Multa.
So, for example, Pela'ang is a great example of this. To decide true, like that's a really interesting combination, because like it differentiates itself from pe'un by itself, which is simply to decide. But to decide what is true basically is like, okay, that's I don't know, that's interesting to me. And then even though we didn't get a whole lot of roots here, we literally got one, leon. Every new root is an opportunity to be a derived word in the future. So the payoff isn't usually immediate, but in the future we might get more leon words.
Oh, you already got one, like.
Well, we
Ketsu
got one.
Right? Yeah,
We got one that we could have built anyway.
yeah, exactly.
We can make all kinds of new words with learn. We can make learn you.
But let me just give a quick counterpoint. One of the reasons I like Na'vi is that it sounds nice. And if you ask me at least, and I think also if you would ask other people, what's your favorite sounding Na'vi word? They would usually come up with a root. I think so at least.
Mm-hmm.
I would say aungia, for example. Or ngaung. I mean, they are nice sounding words. And I feel like the derived words usually sound less catchy, I don't know, less nice.
That is purely an aesthetic judgment, and I
Of
cannot
course.
comment one way or the other.
No, I get what you mean, Willem. The compounds, which are derived from 2 or more words, usually sound a little more not as flowy. Because I don't know.
I guess they use kind of hard consonants, but like I don't know. I don't share this opinion. This is not the opinion of everybody on Eana Mokri. Counterpoint, I think it's awesome to view the attachments that make new words as sort of grammatical helpers. Whenever I hear de at the start of a word, I think like, okay, this is a noun.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the grammar affixes in leNa'vi are cool and sound great. One could make a pretty solid argument that the derivational affixes are part of the grammar, like in terms of like sentence construction.
Yes, definitely. I mean, they're even in the horen, right? The things like de, even if they're not productive.
Mm-hmm. They still provide ample like clues about like what the kind of word is. Okay, I'm going to introduce a crackpot theory. The V suffix was created or designed around the word leNa'vi, which was always there. It's a Cameron original, and the word le'ring was created for forest, and the leNa'vi are a little part of the forest.
Wow.
I was going to ask you what you thought that na would mean then.
Mind blown.
But yeah.
It comes from forest.
Right.
And then obviously the wrench in this plan is how long ago was it decided that the word leNa'vi outside of the forest environment, and how universally do they associate with the forest?
But here's another
crackpot theory, not like airtight theory.
Here's another crackpot theory. Rin actually means wood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if na actually means something, and le'ring is from na plus rin plus some ng in the end because of whatever sound shift?
Mm-hmm.
This is the part where people should just stop listening to us because this is all completely unfounded and ridiculous.
Well, consider, Willem, that rina ends in na, which is a seed, and forests presumably begin with a single seed.
Oh.
And the leNa'vi are like little seeds that spread the forest around.
I want a new word, leNa'vi.
Oh no.
Yeah, leNa'vi.
Yeah, there's some stress problems there, right? Rina is on the first.
Well, so yeah, it's rina.
No, it's rina. Actually, true. Yeah.
It's rina. And then leNa'vi already has the not stressed. So
wait, what?
So if I was making a new root, I would stress the ri, the ri syllable. So it'd be leNa'vi, because that would make it different from rina and leNa'vi.
No, but wait, I'm confused now because this is maybe not interesting at all for during the podcast. In which case, you cut it out. But I mean, rina is apparently stressed on na, right?
Yes.
But atoki rina is stressed on ri. Huh.
Well, aren't languages so weird and inconsistent?
They are not. I'm just even more confused about stress now. But yeah. I mean, we also have the eywa'eveng exception, right?
Oh, right.
So it's not like stresses never change. It's just interesting.
Just to quote Selfridge
Wait,
Wick.
what is the evil moom exception?
Oh, yes, moom is stressed on moom. But if you use any infix in the first position, it shifts to the o. So like it's eywa'eveng, niet eywa'eveng.
Really?
Yep.
And same also for Eana, I believe.
Yep, it is.
Whoa.
Inan, iwinan. Yeah.
Ah, today I learned.
But other verbs don't do that, so that's like pretty confusing.
Today I learned. So today is my 4-year anniversary of learning learnna'vi, and I'm still continuing to learn.
Oh, exactly, 4 years.
Yeah, exactly 4 years. Yeah. On this day 4 years ago, at some point later in the afternoon, we're recording at 10:30 a.m. local time for me. I will have been watching Avatar, which is something I did maybe once a year, and then afterwards being like, I wonder how developed the leNa'vi language is. And a few Google searches later, and then flash forward 4 years later, it's like, hey, yeah, this is me. You might be wondering how I got here. Well, I just explained how I did on a podcast I helped found in this language I started learning.
Wow.
Now that was circular
full
and
circle
meta.
now, yeah.
Getting more back on point. So my favorite word from this post, which is in a tier of its own, above S tier, S plus tier, this might actually just be my favorite leNa'vi word now. Setarenga, or actually specifically the colloquial form of starenga, because it's perfect. It's it's the catchphrase of the the anti-hero from the leNa'vi anime. It's like, Gani, we need your help. Such and such is in trouble. Starenga. I don't know, it just sounds really dismissive to me. In my head, I can't not say starenga and then roll up my push up my glasses a little bit. I don't know, it feels very anime to me. And I'm not a weeb, so this is
so
an important preface here. I don't normally think in terms of anime.
Maybe it's time for the discussion of part 10 of the discussion. Do the leNa'vi use sarcasm?
Well, they're betrayers, obviously, and traitors almost, and throw their own sons under the bus, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I believe the first time I heard the discussion, as the oldest version in 2010 or something on the forum, ended very quickly with, they don't have a word for liar. So that's impossible to use sarcasm then. But that, I think, who doesn't use sarcasm, right?
That's the one piece of canon I can never... Or the one piece of deleted scene canon that I can never accept.
So where exactly does this come from? Because I'm one of these heretics who still hasn't watched the extended version.
It's a deleted scene where Jake's about to go into the link chamber to do the the whole hallucination ritual. And Grace is like, what you're doing is crazy, you might die or whatever. It's but I gotta do this. And then he sort of owns up to the whole gig in that moment to Norm, Grace, and Trudy. Norm has a line that's they won't understand what you've done. They don't have and then Jake's they don't have a word for lie, right? And Grace is yeah, I had to teach it to them.
That's why I feel so strongly about the story, which is currently told in the comic, because it completely contradicts what we saw in the movie.
I don't think it contradicts what we saw in the movie at all. I'm going to hold the line in my position. The leNa'vi are capable of multi-dimensional character development. Yep. They're capable of treachery, they're capable of lying, they're capable of bad deeds.
Of course.
And they're not forest-loving hippies who live in perfect peace and harmony.
Of course they're not.
But it's a different thing.
They're strong warriors.
Yeah, okay,
and
go
all
ahead,
that.
sorry.
But I mean, Grace telling, I think it was Grace who said they won't understand what you did, what Jake did, because he plotted with Quaritch against them, basically trying to extract information that would help the humans, which is basically just treason of some sort. And the Na'vi won't understand what Jake did there, because they also don't have a word for lie. And then we see Arzut inside the comic and Arvok, using their son, plotting for days, weeks, whatever, to use poison against Jake and stuff. That's basically the same thing, just on another level, maybe. And
So,
to me, it's a contradiction, at least to some extent.
I have like two viewpoints on this. Viewpoint one is, I think it's pretty common for like scientists or like people who are new to some, to some community or like a new tribe or like whatever, to idolize them. And it's clear that was also going on in universe with the scientists, right? At least when I hear about a scene where scientists are like, well, they don't have a word for lie, then I don't take it as ground truth. I take it as like the opinion of some scientist who may know a lot about Na'vi, but also might idolize them. So that is not a contradiction to me per se, but my second viewpoint is that, like, in the first movie, we actually saw, like, tsu'tey, who was basically annoying. I always found him very annoying. But it's interesting because, you basically see that kind of behavior in the first movie as well for tsu'tey, and, it's only now because we see that it's far more widespread, I think.
Yeah, of course.
That it's certainly an issue, but we saw it for tsu'tey. He was already very annoying in the first movie. Sorry to all the character writers there, but I found him annoying.
Same. No, I agree with you. tsu'tey definitely went away or walked away from the ideal picture we have of the Na'vi, right? Because he did some questionable stuff too, but still not to the extent of his parents. I'm not saying that Na'vi aren't capable of doing that. It's just I'm fine with Na'vi doing that if the James Cameron decides that they can be treacherous little shits. I don't care.
I think that has been decided. Though. But, like I'm trying to piece together what your position is.
I'm just fine with establishing canon, even if it may be just an opinion of a scientist inside a fictional universe. But it's still stated as fact, and then showing like a complete different side of that happening,
Yeah, but it's a deleted scene. It's a deleted scene that might not be canon. Like, the deleted scenes are not innately canon. They might have been deleted for a reason because they decided that shouldn't be part of the canon. So, like, yes, we've had a lot of deleted scenes confirmed via tsu'tey's path. That has not been one of them. So, like, my big hang up with this conversation is that, like, the Na'vi don't have a word for lying or whatever, and like that whole sentiment. Yes, Willem could be correct that like that's just a naive position on their part. It could be from a linguistic perspective. They could just not have a outright word for lie, but they can still understand what the concept is. Like, most people, like, for the non-Germans, like, Schadenfreude is something that, like, people understand, even though it's not like a super common word, and it's usually something that you learn later, and it's a loan word from German, because that's the thing, like, that's a thing that people can connect to, even though they might not necessarily have a word for it.
Yeah, so I think the entire thing of language X doesn't have a word for Y, I always find that very suspicious, because usually it doesn't mean that language X cannot express concept right, it just might have 2 or 3 words like necessary to express it.
Yeah, but, or it might have an idiomatic expression.
You could also
say it's not a word, it's an expression.
You could also say that, like, English doesn't have a word for tot de tentoonstelling because it's a super long, ridiculous word in Dutch, but that doesn't make sense because English has other rules for making words. It's just like...
Yeah.
Not how it works, so...
Or it could be a granularity thing. Like, we have kavuk and kavuksi.
Yeah.
And that might just be encompass everything related to treachery, including but not limited to lying.
Yeah.
And just because they don't have a word specifically for lying doesn't mean it's like, oh, everything is just kavuk.
And obviously you can just say, I le ut at slang, bifelt
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, my
yeah.
theory now is that James Cameron at first decided that the Na'vi were just like too good-hearted to even know a word for a lie or do it themselves or whatever. But then he realized it would make for too poor of a storytelling, then scrapping that idea along the way.
Yeah.
And now he's gone full circle back to, okay, they're almost like humans. Go have fun.
I'm pretty sure, like, the whole Na'vi don't lie thing, that it feels like a super Project 880 part of the script. I don't know if anyone else, any of you two actually, like, read the Project 880
yeah,
script?
but it's not, I don't know, it's forever in the past. It's been so long since I read it.
Yeah, but, like, got it. It basically, for those who haven't read it, it's the super gritty and kind of, like, kind of lame version of Avatar. There's a scene where they hoist a boulder into a tree and drop it on a bunch of soldiers, and it's just like it's like cartoony. Clearly, Avatar, like any creative endeavor, was an iterative work. Any iterative work has any work has bad ideas in it, and as you iterate on things, you slowly work out the bad ideas. And again, we all get in this fuss about a scene that was literally removed from the theatrical edition and wasn't resurrected or completed for the special edition or the extended collector's edition. It shows up in the extended collector's edition under deleted scenes or like deleted unfinished scenes, which again, debatable canonicity. Just because they shot it doesn't mean that they actually planned or afterwards they're like, yeah, we should use this or keep this.
But maybe, I mean, I think they cannot canonize what the word. The canonness of that scene is like a bit maybe besides the point for me. Like maybe to a term what I said earlier about like scientists romanticizing or like misrepresenting indigenous cultures. I just the other day read an interesting article about some linguists in the 30s who visited for like 20 years or so. He visited some Native American tribe to study the language because the language was already dying. So he was like, I should make a dictionary and get all the grammar rules correct written down so that we preserve the language. But then it turned out he didn't really, I mean, he respected them, but he didn't really like think of them as equals, and he thought they were like study objects. And that became very clear from the way he wrote down things about the language. Like he actually made like rules for the language, and apparently, according to this article, at some point he even corrected people from that tribe because he thought they violated grammar rules. I mean, scientists are not like always objective, like infallible people, right? I mean, I really see that the same way in the movie.
Nobody's infallible. Like I feel like that's sort of the whole point of everything in Avatar and in most media is that like there's no perfect. Like everybody makes mistakes, and you can't just broadly say humans bad, Na'vi good.
It's the same all the way around, right? I mean, the Na'vi always like fight tsu'tey, and they're all idiots and stupid, even though they are undoubtedly also good tsu'tey, as we have seen in the movie.
And in the comics.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm very curious about Avatar 2, what they're going to do there. If it's just going to be like, 2 hours of betrayal, then I will be not so... Then I will share Eana's opinion here. I don't like that so much. But
they're all supposed to be described as self-contained stories where you could just watch Avatar 2 or just watch Avatar 3 and you'd have a good experience. So it's not like all of Avatar 2 will be like, we're going to set up all these plot threads and then quickly resolve them at the end of 3 or 5 or whatever.
Just imagine they do that and then 5 doesn't get made.
Yeah, exactly.
Entire fandom being like, can we crowdfund this?
The crowdfunded version of Avatar with janky CGI and debatable animation.
Anyway, we might have gone slightly off topic from Kaiupa's
post. No. As is tradition.
Starenga.
Strane. Fittepenk o...
Starenga.
Lucas Starenga.
But yeah, what you said earlier about the Kestarenga, I think you're right in the point that it sounds more, I don't know, What word did you use to describe it?
Dismissive.
Yeah, dismissive. It sounds a tad more dismissive than just saying ketare.
Yeah.
Because that sounds way more neutral in comparison. So
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Ketare is like stating a fact. Ketare nga is like this is my judgment on the matter.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the example sentence in the blog post, right? Tsa se pult'efiri a se tarenga irayo. Thanks for that pertinent, helpful, Thank you for that helpful comment. It was really helpful. Thank you so much.
Almost like, I mean, that can be interpreted sarcastically too.
Well, I think that's what I meant.
Thanks for the really pertinent comment, jerk.
I read that sentence immediately with a sarcastic voice. I don't know. That's maybe just me, but yeah. Because, I mean, if you would just want to thank someone for a helpful comment, you can just say thank you for the comment, or like, thank you. I mean, you don't need to emphasize it's helpful, because obviously it is helpful if you're thanking them. So maybe my brain is overthinking this again. Why not?
Yeah, I think so. Just a tad. But what I wondered about was, like, there's a lot of words that are connected to debate. Like your main point or your key assumption.
Yeah. That's what I loved about this. This is entirely the tone of voice that I communicate in.
Yeah, that's why I wondered, like, why those words were was KP having some, I don't know, heated debate via email with somebody or Zoom or something.
I feel like
what inspired him.
At this point, we could almost start writing down mathematical proofs in Na'VI, because we have things like proof, we have key assumption, we have main point, we have all of these words you need for it, right?
Yeah. Clearly, Awe was consulting with KP about his project to have, like, explain mathematics in Na'VI.
Oh boy.
Is it actually happening?
It's a good thing he's not on the cast right now.
Time for science news.
Or we get even more off track.
Well, let's ask Awe that next time on the podcast. What's happening with that? I'm sure we don't have any other material that we could fill an hour with.
Sure, certainly not.
Well,
are we going to move into the Na'VI practice now?
Okay, well, my brain is already half dead, so
don't sound too excited, Eana.
That's going to go so well.
Like, I haven't spoken English in like months, I think, and I haven't spoken Na'VI in like half a year or something.
You've been on this cast.
Oh, have I? Was I? I'm not so sure. Okay.
I'm pretty sure we have evidence.
Okay. I don't remember. Every day is exactly the same.
Aww.
Yola.
Ça s'espine.
Ça s'espine pot.
But I don't want to talk about that in this practice session. I want something something
not
nice.
Again.
It's every single episode. Same topic.
I mean, art imitates life.
You're calling this podcast art?
Yes.
Wow.
I have very low standards for art. After all, I'm an Avatar fan. No cultural relevance.
Wow.
Okay, before this gets any worse.
Maybe we should just end it here. Maybe this is enough.
Okay.
I was mostly just seeing how immediately receptive to that idea you would be.
I'm sure that all listeners will now be shouting to their like YouTube window wherever they're watching. It's like, oh no, Na'VI practice this episode.
We could make up for it and just have our next episode be entirely in Na'VI, and then nobody will enjoy it.
But nobody, I will sure enjoy it. I mean, sådär une prute för podcastine alu Eana Mokri.
I already do my introduction in Na'VI. We don't really have to change that much.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the easiest one to translate live because it already was like half in Na'VI.
Se eywa'eveng one Na'VI.
Strane.
Mi wielko.
Yeah, strane. Sounds like MCV.
peli uti lauk. Fitrako.
Srake dare fitte penkot sa le'ul frakker.
Frakker, strak.
Srane, fmi IOL pivet un le'ut fid podcast da sla niwin swiva.
Sranne.
Tsun iewa'eveng pivet en api look le'u fid podcast da.
Eta.
Smolai.
Eta. Sranne. Ngaroti jaur.
Srane.
Ngazik.
Jafke kiri... Okej.
Tanga. Fitsengelit awel ja lengu nift ana herwe zo lengu.
Herwe.
Herwe pak.
Herwe pak.
Sådär. Oli Olei.
Olei.
Sådär.
Ansan.
Sauke lucht ook fitsengen. Ulte kaum. Set sanga hap sisite sngai. Ha sunu veru. Taluna. Nifketu ai sunu veru herwe. Sle ne au ne i. Ha dat kanon ro sisite te ia sunu veru herwe. Lulor sunu veru. Sle set ken wel herweti. Taluna set zeneski ve i sa sisikr asom.
Srane, fysisker med vecke wel herwit nit an. Nit i.
Mit der Taluna Ayer will zene zauslivu ulte o herwe sub ketsun.
Srane, aisulang il niteng herwit vecke.
Sranne.
Zutslan. Fmolle Pela'ang. Aisulang te.
Roet eywa'eveng.
Verherwe fmolle spivang. Aisulang te.
Srane.
Sranenge.
Sle mi fo rei.
Fitsengne teg. Nitrip.
Sivako, ma sulang.
Maar ja, jewe. Sivako.
Kosman ma Voilà.
Steeds net aan, maar is Jula.
Srane.
Hij gaat toen sakem CV.
Srake kelu li'u alu nature?
Paungi.
Alu stoli'u?
Paungi.
Kesmonwer.
Ketenglu kefja.
Pela'u.
Paungi.
Paungi.
Dan heeft wel futa eyna'vi. Futa na'vi rei. Me. Sali walu nature na Engelse kefja. Ha. Kaum na'viru kelu sali'u.
Kelu niteng kelu foru li'u alu lai.
Stil sana telle sunu veru.
Niteng. Stevisiyu slolu oe.
Gehe. Fu frapolu stevisiyu fitsengen.
Stranne.
Snastiwisiyu. snastiwisiyu.
Snastiwisiyu. Salut siltsanat o podcastie.
Srane.
Saulie fu siltsan.
Ngopko ma Willem.
Snastiwisiyu, lì'fya.
Kalu
Srane.
veru keakr angopsan. Slet un lekifatem oti fi podcastie. Kehe. Sef bella fe. Slet kaum set fget ook tuta a staum a neo snive i podcastit tsakr hute natsun sivau tsa podcastiru snastiwisiyu.
Srane. Sivarko.
Me vertellen die vunu veru to fgetivo ai podcasti leNa'vi ne ul.
Srane. Kezene fid podcast. Fid podcast. Livu. Puma au.
Srane. Nedun. Kezene,
Where do Livu?
Where
do ipu lufu people liu le English lì'fya o fit podcast fit podcast sunu wedu. Srake now kivane Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kehe.
Tanga.
Kesunu veru satsenge. Sle topura atsi ngatsun kivene auto.
Now in that coffee tea. Maktofa car. Slivu Amerika you.
Efu Schadenfreude.
Yeah, in German that no.
Meep.
Where Olivo. For people ne fia o ne toitje. Livam. Oren. Taluna lì'fya ne toitje. A toitje lut or. Ni taluna en lam ne hirrap taluna natgenong leu alu Schmetterling. Ipolivu fois pivot et safia ne Na'vi se ne toitje ne ten.
Tute niransral. Tute kelus monporu lì'fya yeru ne fid podcast tu ti. Ute tam ketsmon weru talu Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky Fried Schmetterling. Luhiek fra lì'fya leNa'vi. Lì'fya leNa'vi. O I sautute pult tsa lì'fya fa. Frakr o kesmon leu a kinfkol. Etsakr frakr sar lì'fya ti le Englise. Taluna spilal futa tsaulu lì'fya a auve. Stekes pult tunslivu fasar a lì'fya ti a lahe. Kelu kea lunat kan kesi. Wow.
Ningai spawel suta lì'fya o solar well ipu lu lengu sla nisung tsun livu
Hier. Siltsaan.
Jör.
Jur.
Jir.
Jörni. Jörpak.
Wel, du kennst die Tuno.
Snarare. Tsun go pivot te ipu luke san strake neo wehu givene Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Pela'ang.
Kefjak.
Sran.
Ha weru te jaur. Nefrakker. Weru te
Au
jaur.
ale une au. Alu le alu pela'ang.
Sran. Pela'ang.
Li'u fi podcaster lu Pela'ang.
Pela'ang ma snastiwisiyu.
Srane. Så litt poeng Divan Kefjak.
Kaum. Alun appel wel futa ueja eltu pejor.
All right, with that we're gonna wrap up this episode of Eana Mokri. Thank you for
What just
tuning.
happened?
I don't know. I don't know, something about Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I think we should do the same thing the other way around, right? I think we're going to end this podcast Niween because
Ah.
Yeah, I mean they snore at you already.
We are Hasei.
yeah, this
This is Hasse now.
hasse.
Hasse.
Ich hasse das.
Anyway, next episode we're probably going to be talking about issue 4, which is already out. Go support your local comic book store, and if you can't, check it out some way or another. Anyway, I'm signing off. Hi, Levi.
Hello, bye.
We did it. We made a podcast.
Barely.
We noloped that podcast.
Yeah, we made a podcast. Very nice.
Unironically, I've wanted to work on a leNa'vi English Pidgin language.
Oh no.
Oh boy.
Bomu.
Which, and like just coming up with like what would the constraints be, or like what would be the natural like God, what is the word for it? What would be the natural conceits of mixing leNa'vi and English? And like the one I came up with would be that they would use English word order always,
Oh no.
but
Heresy.
there would be some leNa'vi like elements to it.
So English word order on dropping all the case endings and stuff
Yes.
like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most case endings. I think there'd be some that you'd still need to use, but then it'd be like sort of like an Esperanto situation where like it'd be like kind of like a 50-50 split between leNa'vi and English.
It would be interesting to also introduce articles like because originally I believe they actually came from the like the Proto-European, like Indo-European words for these. So you could say that tsa and fe just become separate words, meaning
Right. I kami the you.
Oh, my German brain just like had an error just hearing about that because we have so many articles in German. Oh boy. No, thank you.
Just imagine that you have to start like putting case endings on the tsa, just like in German.
Yeah, oh, nee.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording now.
Yeah.
Yeah.